Chapter 664, Challenging 3 Characters. This chapter is updated by Novels.pl. Having heard Xue Chenxing's words, the eyes of all the saint's disciples, including Can Dong, fell on Zhang Yuochen. The crowd had long heard that during the coronation ceremony, someone had drawn out the vision of 800-mile purple chi and combined the three sects of patriarchal sword comprehension. This man was definitely not a commoner. He had to be someone with exceptional talent in the Tower of the Sword. However, Xue Chenxing's words obviously sounded hostile. No matter how naturally talented Lin Yue was in the Tower of Sword, he was just a novice saint's disciple. He would be considered outstanding if he could pass the first stage on second-level mountain. However, how could Xue Chenxing directly ask him how many characters he intended to challenge today? Lin Yue was in an unfavorable position regardless of how he answered this question. He did it to flatter Zhang Yuochen to cause him to stumble. The higher he lifted Zhang Yuochen, the harder he would fall. Xue Chenxing, still smiling kindly, said, "Since junior fellow apprentice Lin Yue has combined three patriarchal sword comprehensions, open our eyes by challenging three characters." Laughter began to reverberate through the crowd of saints' disciples. Even Xue Chenxing barely succeeded in challenging two characters, and he's forcing Lin Yue to challenge three characters. Isn't it clear that he's trying to embarrass Lin Yue? If Lin Yue agrees to this, he will surely be defeated by the three gatekeepers. Everyone in Yin and Yang sect will mock him for being overconfident. On the other hand, if he doesn't take up the challenge, he will earn the name of a coward. What is the problem between Xue Chenxing and Lin Yue? Why is Xue Chenxing making things so difficult for Lin Yue? Can't you see it's because he's jealous? I would never have expected Xue Chenxing, with his status, to fight a novice saint's disciple over a woman. That depends on who they are fighting over. It would be worth it if they were fighting over Darkness Body. If Xue Chenxing managed to marry Darkness Body, he would surely become the heir of the powerful Xue family. The crowd sighed and shook their heads, believing that Lin Yue was going to become Xue Chenxing's stepping stone. What use was it to be highly talented in the Tower of the Sword if the skills were not fully developed? However, the most calm-looking person was Zhang Yuochen. He smiled and said, "There's not much difference between challenging one character or three. Why should I do something to disadvantage myself?" Xue Chenxing thought that this was because Zhang Yuochen was afraid. He laughed and said, "You may not be aware, junior fellow apprentice Lin Yue, but there is a huge difference between challenging three characters and challenging one. He who ascends to the summit of second-level mountain, after successfully challenging one character, can only collect a container of holy water from the second holy spring. Another who ascends the summit of second-level mountain, after successfully challenging two characters, can collect 100 containers of holy water from the second holy spring. Yet another who ascends to the summit of second-level mountain, after successfully challenging three characters, can collect 1,000 containers of holy water from the second holy spring. With every additional character conquered, the reward increases 10 times. Zhang Yuochen's sudden realization was written all over his face. He nodded and said, "If I challenged 10 characters, would there be enough holy water on the mountain top for me fill my containers?" All the surrounding saints' disciples exploded with laughter. Can Dong had long been aware of Zhang Yuochen's arrogance, but the words he had just spoken made him jerk his head back and snort. Xue Chenxing looked mockingly at Zhang Yuochen and said, "No one in the entire history of Yin and Yang sect has conquered 10 characters at one go. If junior fellow apprentice Lin were to succeed in doing so, such a victory would definitely be recorded in the Yin and Yang sect's history." Zhang Yuochen pondered for a moment before he shook his head and said, "My cultivation in the Tower of Sword is not yet powerful enough for me to challenge 10 characters." "That's more like it. At least you know your abilities." As Xue Chenxing was about to express this thought, he was cut off by Zhang Yuochen, who continued to speak. Xue Chenxing could only hold his thoughts back. Zhang Yuochen said, "I will just challenge three characters this time. After all, I have to save some of my strength for later." Was he crazy? Challenging three characters? Everyone in the crowd thought Lin Yue was speaking out of rage. How would he, being a novice saint's disciple, be able to challenge three characters at once? Xue Chenxing's lips curled up slightly in delight. Worried that Lin Yue may go back on his word, he quickly said, You have proven yourself to be a promising young man of Yin and Yang sect, worthy of my admiration. However, challenging 3 characters is definitely difficult. You may not be able to succeed using your sword, which is a 10th level genuine martial arm. Why don't I, as an elder brother, lend you my Valley Water sword? You can keep it if you succeed in the challenge. As he was still speaking, Xu Chenxing undid the white sword tied to his back and tossed it to Zhang Yuochen. Xu Chenxing looked intently at Lin Yue. There was no going back once he accepted the sword. Zhang Yuochen reached out with one hand and caught the white sword. Upon contact, Zhang Yuochen felt a chilling power. It made his hand numb. Xu Chenxing let out a sigh of relief when Zhang Yuochen caught the sword. A smile broke out on his face, and his mood lifted. All the surrounding saints' disciples looked at each other and shook their heads in amusement. While Xu Chenxing was complimenting Lin Yue excessively, they realized he would not give Lin Yue any chance to turn over if he failed his attempt in the challenge later. Moreover, it was perilous even to enter Ancient God's Mountain. The gatekeeper's swords would vanquish any warrior who was unaware of the risks, before he could even surrender. Everyone thought that Xu Chenxing was sinister and malicious indeed. Lin Yue was silly to agree to challenge 3 characters at once. He had fallen into Xu Chenxing's snare without a clue. However, similar scenarios had happened so many times in history that the Elder Saint's disciples did not think much of it. This sword is a 12th level genuine martial arm, refined using Sacred Valley Water Jade. It can mature into a holy sword if it produces sword spirit from within. This is indeed an exceptional sword. Zhang Yuochen muttered praise after praise as he stroked the Valley Water sword. All present thought that his excitement upon seeing the Valley Water sword was because he had never seen great things. In actuality, Zhang Yuochen was stroking the Valley Water sword to use genuine Qi to refine the remnants of Xu Chenxing's sword comprehension. Once he had completely refined the sword comprehension in it, he walked towards the stone wall and stood about 30 meters away. The inscriptions on the stone wall were indecipherable. As he had never come across many of the characters, he could only make out their meanings through his strength in sword comprehension. Swoosh! In that instant, 3 characters came off the stone wall and transformed into 3 translucent gatekeepers. They descended from the air and charged towards Zhang Yuochen with their swords. All the saints' disciples had thought it would take a long time for Lin Yue to recognize and pick out 3 characters. However, to their surprise, Lin Yue recognized 3 characters almost instantly, and he began the challenge immediately. It was commendable that Lin Yue, a mere novice saint's disciple, could do this. Despite this, the crowd still did not believe that Lin Yue would succeed. After all, the challenge posed by 3 characters was far more difficult than 2 characters. The 3 gatekeepers attacked Zhang Yuochen from 3 different directions in a combined attack. 2 of the gatekeepers dashed on the ground towards Zhang Yuochen from the left and right. They made continuous sword movements. Their aggressive sword Qi turned into 2 10-meter-long whooshing dragon shadows. The 3rd gatekeeper, flying overhead, held a sword in each of his hands. His sword wove a Qi sign, which formed a ball of sword Qi 10 meters in diameter. Twin dragons playing with a pearl. All the saints' disciples retreated as they saw the surge of violent and aggressive sword Qi. Even Xu Chenxing and Kendong, who were very accomplished in their cultivation, were taken aback. This was, after all, the first time they had witnessed the power manifested by 3 characters combined. Could a monk of only the fish dragon realm really overcome such terrifying power? When Xu Chenxing challenged 2 characters, both gatekeepers had been at the 3rd realm of Sword 1. Presently, Zhang Yuochen was attempting to challenge 3 characters. This implied that each of the 3 gatekeepers was at the 5th realm of Sword 1. Although there was only one more character, the level of difficulty had increased exponentially. The 2 challenges were vastly different. I see that the more characters challenged, the higher the ability of the gatekeepers. It's no wonder that Xu Chenxing is fully convinced that I am unable to break through. It will not be easy to defeat the 3 gatekeepers. Zhang Yuochen was the only one at the scene who appeared calm. He remained standing at the same spot, and he did not reveal any sign of panic. In a split second, the 2 gatekeepers on the ground aimed their swords at Zhang Yuochen. It looked like the sword Qi would cut him to pieces. Then, something happened that stunned the saint's disciple. Whiz, whiz. The blue crystal sword and the valley water sword left their sheaths simultaneously, and Zhang Yuochen hit the hilts successively with his palms. The two swords transformed into blue and white light shuttles that traveled forward and divided into 360 streams of sword chi. They attacked the gatekeepers on the ground forcefully enough to cause a retreat. In response, the two gatekeepers struck back with their swords at lightning speed. However, the blue and the white swords were moving even faster, overwhelming the two gatekeepers. All they could do was retreat. Straight ahead. The third gatekeeper rotated his arm at an alarming speed, forming a sword chi vortex. A 7-meter-long sword emerged from the vortex and transformed into a brilliant light column. It shot out and struck Zhang Yuochen between the eyes. Break. Zhang Yuochen pinched his fingers and formed a sword. He struck back. The tip of his fingers came into contact with the sword tip with a loud noise. The 7-meter sword instantly broke into pieces and became a ball of chaotic sword chi. It surged backwards onto the third gatekeeper, forcing him to retreat more than 30 meters. How is that possible? Xu Chenxing's eyes widened in disbelief and blue veins began bulging out of his entire face. The other saint's disciples were struck dumb. Their minds went blank, and they were so shocked that they almost forgot to breathe. Both Kandong and Qin Yufan took in a deep breath and blurted out simultaneously. The seventh realm of Sword One, Shifu, who was standing at the edge of the cliff, emerged from the white fog, revealing her otherworldly beauty. Her beautiful eyes were fixed on Zhang Yuochen. Obviously, she was incredulous, too.